Good evening, Howard.
Hi, David. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you doing at the moment?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Very good.
You've been out on the road, haven't you, a lot recently? I've been following your travels around the globe.
Yeah. I think we did 100 shows last year, and we started off this year with some shows in Japan, and then flew to LA, did a big show there on Saturday, and then we're off to America again, in a few days. So it's great. I'm really loving it.
So you're keeping yourself busy then, aren't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of flat out, really.
When I was thinking of how to introduce you on the show, and I looked at what other people have said about you, and you are often described as an 80s legend or an 80s synth god or something like that. Does it bother you that you're so closely identified with one particular decade?
No, it doesn't really bother me at all. I mean, it was the decade that I established myself and, that I had the highest profile. And, it's fine. It's like whatever people want to say, I mean, I always think, the important thing is that, the work speaks for itself, and what I say in my songs, what I say when I'm interviewed, that's me. However people want to label it, really, it's kind of up to them. I'm cool with it.
I was actually chatting to a friend a couple of days ago, and I mentioned that I'd be interviewing you, and I was quite excited telling her about it, and she said, "Oh, that's absolutely wonderful." She says, "I'm a big fan of Take That." So, yeah, that's a different Howard. So.
But I tell you what was really interesting for me today was I was speaking to a young lady. She was interviewing me, and she was 27, and she said she knew all my work, and she said all her friends know about me as well. So I don't know what's happening there, but I was really excited about that. Other generations are kind of getting on board.
I think particularly the classic songs from the 80s, they're played a lot, aren't they? And you do hear them on the radio a lot. And I know one of them was featured in Breaking Bad, wasn't it? Which a lot of people will have heard.
Oh, I was so excited about that, because Breaking Bad was my favourite TV show of the last decade, and to have a song in it was absolutely icing on the cake, really.
How did you find out? I presume they contacted for permission, did they? So you knew it was coming?
Yes, that's right. They call it a sync, and they get in touch with you, and you have to give your permission for it. And of course, I was absolutely delighted to be in that show.
Apart from the 80s, where obviously there's a lot of big hits that you had, you've continued to make music throughout the last 30-plus years. So how do you feel your sound's developed over that time?
Well, I mean, I've just tried to develop everything, really, try and get better at everything. So, organising shows, putting on great shows with, really high-quality sound and great lighting and video. And then, I've been working on my singing, working on how to breathe some fresh air into the older material, and then add new songs that kind of fit in with the whole vibe. So I just feel like I've just been trying to develop it all over the years, and I've learned so much because I've done so many things now. I've worked with choirs, I've worked with orchestras, I've worked with brass sections, small string sections, and great singers, and it sort of all adds up. I mean, the exciting thing for me is that I still get an absolute thrill out of every show, and it's my real pleasure to be doing it. I feel like I'm in a privileged position, so I try never to forget that.
Do you feel that you've become a better songwriter as the years have gone by?
I would like to think so. I mean, an album, not the last album, the album before that was an album called Ordinary Heroes, which I really concentrated on the basics of songwriting. And when I go back to listen to that, 'cause sometimes you need a few years away from it to kind of assess it yourself. And I was listening to it in the car the other day, and I was thinking, I'm really proud of the way things have developed. I mean, one of the things that can happen to you is that as you get older, you become a bit more self-conscious about writing, because, when I started out, I just blasted the songwriting out. I didn't really think too much about it. This is what I wanted to say, and this is how I want to do it.
Yeah.
And then when you have some success, you start to be a little bit more concerned about whether you're getting it right or not. You become a bit more sort of... But I think I've got through that period now, and I'm back to sort of being very, letting it flow a bit more. Yeah, I mean, I hope I've got better. I mean, it's really for the fans to say, really, what they think.
When you perform live, I'm sure that a lot of the audience, they'd be disappointed if you didn't play the old classics as well as some of the newer ones. But do you still enjoy playing those old songs, and are there particular favourites that you enjoy performing?
Well, I do enjoy it if I can give them a little bit of a twist. For instance, when we play Things Can Only Get Better live now, at the end of the song, people think it's all finished, but then it launches into a kind of EDM version of the song that, Cedric Gervais did this amazing mix for me. And we based the last sort of 2 minutes on that sort of big room house. And I just love it. And people, although, because they know the song, they just totally go with it. And I think using that approach and always trying to keep things fresh is something that I'm very conscious of. And I've got to feel still excited about it, and then the audience can as well. Yeah. So it's a two-way thing.
I'm going to just have a bit of fun here, Howard. So just go with me with this one. I'm going to pick a date at random. And I wondered if you could perhaps try and remember what you were doing on that day. You up for that?
I'm hopeless at that.
I'll just pick a date. I'll just off the top of my head. I'm going to go with, let's say, July the 13th, 1985. Do you remember what you were doing that day?
Well, was that Live Aid?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about that day. I couldn't not ask you about that day. Tell me about that day.
I mean, I could talk for hours about that day, but I'll try not to. So I flew in from America because we were touring there, and I cancelled some shows. I was absolutely adamant that I was going to be part of the Live Aid thing because I missed out on Band Aid.
Right.
So we flew into London, got outside Wembley, and flew in a helicopter in with the members of Queen, and that was a great start. And then it came to my time to do my song, where I did Hide and Seek, as you know.
Yes,
and
yeah.
Got out there. I was very nervous because I don't think anybody knew I could even play the piano because I was Mr. Synth guy.
Yeah.
So I sat down and played, and I was, very nervous. I mean, it was the biggest audience that I think any of those bands will ever play to. You think there's 1 billion people watching it on TV. And so I got to the chorus, and the whole of Wembley decided they were going to join in and sing the chorus with me, and it was the most unbelievable moment that I will always remember. I just got this rush of sort of, joy, that sort of went through me because I felt, oh, wow, everyone's, supporting me, and it was such a great feeling. So, that the song went well. And then, I got to meet David Bowie that day. He chatted with me, and I met Paul McCartney and Linda McCartney, and it was just like experience after experience that I'll never forget. So that was a pretty big day for me.
I was watching the video actually this morning, and it gives me shivers down the spine watching it. Like you say, the audience reaction was just amazing, wasn't it?
It was so warm, and I couldn't have asked for any more. Really, I felt so elated.
Well, on 31st of March, you're coming to Lancaster to the Grand Theatre as part of your latest tour. So, have you been to Lancaster before?
I played Lancaster right back in, I think, 82.
Wow.
When I played the university. And I did a gig there, and I haven't played there since, so it's about time.
There might even be some people in Lancaster who were at that gig who are going to come along on the 31st of March. I'm sure there will be. The show's subtitle is The Songs, the Piano, the Stories. So give us a flavour of what people can expect on the night.
I like to give people some of the background of why or what inspired me to write some of the songs, and maybe tell a few stories about, what happened, and first Top of the Pops, I talk about Live Aid, I give some more stories about that, and, just some funny things that happen sometimes to me, and there's some bringing things up to date, and, I was just in Japan, and I discovered the app, Google Translate. I was speaking in Japanese to the audience, based on my app. I thought that was just so funny.
You won't need that in Lancaster, though, I don't think.
No, I won't need that there, no, that's right. That's right. That's the great thing about, because so much of the acoustic show depends on people understanding the language and all the subtleties that we have in our language. So that's why I feel so much at home here in the UK, and then when I play in America as well. So it suits the English-speaking audience, this kind of show.
And it will be an intimate show. I mean, it's a beautiful theatre, the Lancaster Grand.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll love playing there. How do you adapt your performance to those more intimate shows compared to the big stadiums that you've played in the past?
Normally I'm out with a band and we're doing, full electronic show and with all the bells and whistles and stuff. But for me to strip it back down and go back to the songs and just be very real, about everything is a great antidote to those other shows, and I think it helps me as well to keep on top of my singing and my playing, and it just keeps me match fit, really. I love the fact that every audience is different, and you're going to say different things because they're all different, and it's challenging. Being on stage on your own, it is quite exposed, and I love the challenge of that as well. It keeps me honest.
I'm looking at the tour schedule, and it looks like Lancaster is the last night of the tour. Will you be going out for a wild night in Lancaster after the show?
I don't know. I think probably my wild nights are sort of really over now. I have to sort of keep my energy up for the next thing. The next thing is I'm adding a new member to the band for our festival dates during the summer. So I've got a lot. I'll be straight back home and getting on with that because there's so much to do. So it's really keeping everything flowing, really.
Okay. Well, all it remains for me to say is the best of luck for the tour. We look forward to seeing you in Lancaster on the 31st of March at the Grand Theatre. I've got an additional question, if I can just slip this one in, because I asked my brother, who's a massive fan, if he had any questions for you, and he sent me a question, but I don't understand it.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'll read it to you, and you see if you can explain. He says, can you ask him what are his favourite VST or software instruments? Does that mean anything to you? Do you understand that?
I totally understand that, yeah. Okay, well, at the moment, I love Omnisphere.
Okay.
But I've just got Keyscape, which is made by the same company, and it's a most amazing sort of virtual instrument that combines like pianos and harpsichords and very unusual stringed keyboard instruments, and sort of enables you to mash them all up together and create sort of new hybrid sounds that sound vaguely like keyboard instruments but have an extra twist to them. So I'm hoping that I'm going to use that some of that on this tour, so to give some of the songs a different flavour. So you could let him know.
I will. There you are, Paul. That's the answer to your question that I didn't understand. And I'm sure the synth geeks out there will really will make sense of that. Now, I have a geeky question, Howard. Again, just bear with me on this one. One of my great passions, as our regular listeners will know, is I'm a massive London Underground geek. Now, you're quite celebrated, actually, amongst the underground geek fraternity. And you won't know this, I'm sure. But the reason is your video for New Song, part of that was filmed in Holborn Station.
Yes.
In the areas of the station that are now closed off. It used to be the platforms that went to Aldwych. So are you aware of this fact, that it's an interesting video to fans of the London Underground?
I did not know that, and I'm fascinated to know that. Because when I'm in London, I still travel on the Underground because it's the fastest way to get round.
Yeah.
So, and my kids live in London, so I'm always, wow, I didn't know that. That's really exciting. I'll have to let people know about that.
Yeah, you should. It's the parts of the station which have the beautiful old tiling, and you can see it fantastically in your video, which is a great video. I was watching it this morning just to remind myself, and it really does show off those disused platforms at Holborn Station. And I'm pleased that I've come up with a question that you've never been asked before. So
that is a killer question. That really is. That really is. And thanks for informing me about that.
Howard, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you very much, and once again, all the best for the tour, and we look forward to seeing you in Lancaster on the 31st of March.
Well, thank you very much, David. Thanks for having me on your show.